The U.S. government said the Russians...
It could be any of these, right, Mr. Jones?
The U.S. government said the Russians staged a false flag to start the Ukraine war, and I believe it.
Right, Your Honor.
Yeah, they're real.
Outbursts and heated arguments marked the first day of Alex Jones' testimony in the trial to determine how much the conspiracy theorist owes families of victims of the 2012 Sandy Hook mass shooting for claiming the massacre was a hoax.
You put a target on his back just like you did every single parent and loved one sitting here.
The shooting in Newtown, Connecticut killed 20 small children and 6 adults. On Thursday, many of their families were seated in the courtroom, some wiping tears as Jones defiantly shouted from the witness stand.
But you liberals kill and love. I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry.
Jurors in the Waterbury, Connecticut defamation trial will decide what Jones and InfoWars parent company, Free Speech Systems, must pay the plaintiffs, who also include an FBI agent, for their pain and suffering over false claims that the U.S. government staged the killing as a pretext for seizing guns. Tensions flared after the plaintiff's lawyer, Christopher Maddy, played a video clip of Jones' webcast showing him praising his followers for placing InfoWars stickers around the Connecticut courthouse during the trial.
It's not mostly a peaceful protest where they burned down $2 million, but that's good. But the conservatives put up stickers and we're bad. I know we all need to go to prison.
The testimony prompted Judge Barbara Bellis to briefly dismiss jurors and discuss with lawyers how to contain Jones on the stand. Bellis has largely barred discussion of politics and conspiracy theories at the trial. Jones is also not allowed to dispute his liability for damages after Bellis issued a default judgment last year because he repeatedly failed to comply with court orders. Jones, however, remained defiant.
Mr. Jones, for years and years and years, you called these families actors, correct?
No.
The trial is taking place a month after Jones was hit with a $49.3 million verdict in a similar case in Texas, where Free Speech Systems is based.
How many times do I have to say when I'm speaking, you stop?
After the day of intense courtroom drama, Judge Bellis said she'd institute a zero-tolerance policy moving forward for both attorneys and witnesses.
So how do we get rid of inflation? And as I mentioned, it would be nice if there were, a way to just wish it away, but there isn't.
The Fed delivered its third straight 75 basis point interest hike this week. Here are 5 ways that might affect Americans. Number 1, unemployment will rise, with inflation still high. Unemployment is currently very low at 3.7%, but it could rise to 4.4% by the end of next year. In the last 3 recessions, the jobless rate peaked at 14.7%, 9.5%, and 5.5%. None of those were preceded by inflation anywhere as high as today. Number 2, wage growth will slow with fewer job openings. Wages grew at a 5.2% annual rate in August, with lowest paid workers seeing the biggest bump. But policymakers are trying to tamp it down. They say the pace of growth may lead to a spiral of higher inflation. Number 3, saving rates will rise, but so will rates on consumer loans. Households will get a bump in the interest rate on savings accounts, but finance companies will be raising their rates on most consumer and auto loans too. Number 4, buying a home will be less affordable while rents continue to rise. The housing market is where the rate hikes have hit the hardest and fastest. Mortgage rates doubled in just over 8 months. The current average is 6.25% for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. Meanwhile, rental prices climbed an average of 6.4% in August from the previous year.
Food has definitely gone up a lot. I just bought groceries, and usually what happens to be like about $130 was like $200.
And number 5, there's not much the Fed can do about gas and food prices. It's the everyday prices that Americans perhaps care about most, but they're beyond the Fed's reach. Gas prices, which spiked in the U.S. due to the war in Ukraine, have been on 11 straight weeks of decline. But the war, as well as severe droughts in Europe and China, will keep food prices high in America.
Ginni Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, has agreed to be interviewed by the U.S. congressional panel probing the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, her lawyer confirmed to Reuters. An email from Thomas's lawyer said that Mrs. Thomas is, quote, eager to answer the committee's questions to clear up any misconceptions about her work relating to the 2020 election. The justice's wife is active in conservative political circles and said she attended the rally by then-President Donald Trump outside the White House before his supporters marched on the Capitol to try to block certification of Democrat Joe Biden's defeat of Trump. Her political activity has raised questions about whether her husband should recuse himself from cases involving Trump and the Capitol riot. In January, Clarence Thomas was the lone dissenting voice when the court rejected Trump's request to block the release of White House records sought by the committee. The Washington Post has previously reported the committee had obtained emails between Ginni Thomas and Trump attorney John Eastman that then Vice President Mike Pence could somehow prevent the formal congressional certification of Trump's 2020 election loss. The Democratic-led Select Committee has held 8 public hearings, disclosing the findings of its more than year-long probe of events surrounding the deadly assault on the seat of the government by supporters of the former president. The next one is scheduled for September 28th.
Dimorphos is a tiny asteroid. We've never seen it up close. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what the shape is. And that's just one of the things that leads to the technical challenges of DART. Hitting an asteroid is a tough thing to do.
We've been doing a bunch of rehearsals, and some of the rehearsals are very nominal, like this is what we expect on impact day. But then we also get into the contingencies, and we've been doing rehearsals where we introduce unknown contingencies to the team, and we watch their behavior, and we make sure that they are truly trained up to handle the nominal situation and then any contingencies that occur. So at this point, I can say that the team is ready, the ground systems are ready, and the spacecraft is healthy and on track for an impact on Monday.
Stocks closed lower on Thursday, falling for a third straight session as investors nursed a bit of a Fed hangover one day after the U.S. Central Bank announced another aggressive interest rate hike and signaled more were to come. The Dow fell almost 0.4%, while the S&P shed about 0.8% and the Nasdaq lost nearly 1.4%. The Fed on Wednesday lifted rates by an expected 75 basis points, but its longer-than-expected trajectory for rate hikes fueled fears of further volatility in stock and bond trading in a year that has already seen bear markets in both asset classes. Ryan Belanger is founder and managing principal of Claro Advisors.
Fixed income is down, stocks are down. There's really nowhere to hide. And I think that makes it really frustrating for investors. And it's tempting to sell out of everything and put the money under the mattress. But, oh, wait, we've got inflation that's running at all-time highs or 40-year highs. So you can't do that. You can't do the cash under the mattress anymore either. So it's very difficult. So what we're telling our investors is you have to just stay patient, hold your course, and you got to grind through this really difficult period, knowing that statistically you're going to get 7 good years out of every 10, and that's the investing landscape that we're in.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said on Thursday that the very tight labor market was fueling inflationary pressure, but that she had confidence in the Federal Reserve to get it under control. She said she believed inflation was going to come down next year, but there were risks linked to Russia's ongoing invasion in Ukraine, with the economy remaining vulnerable to supply shocks. Shares of mega-cap technology and growth companies such as Amazon, Tesla, and Nvidia fell as benchmark U.S. Treasury yields hit an 11-year high. Major U.S. airlines, which have enjoyed a rebound amid increased travel, were also down again. In the last 3 days, United Airlines and American have both lost around 10% of value.